Episode 7 opens with Lee-en bringing Hee-ju back to his private residence. They are met by the staff, who ask them, "Where did you go? Everyone was looking for you." Hee-ju replies, "We went out for a drive." The staff members ask, "Did you two have a good time?" Both Lee-en and Hee-ju exchange glances. Lee-en tells Hee-ju to go and rest. Later, Hee-ju retires to her room, but she is unable to sleep that night. She keeps replaying the scene of the kiss in her mind. Trying to reassure herself, she tells herself, "It's no big deal. We shared a kiss, we just got caught up in the moment. That's all that happened. It's not as if I lost control of myself." Yet, she immediately asks herself, "But why did I do that?" Meanwhile, Lee-en is in his own room. He, too, is reminiscing about the kiss and breaks into a smile. Later, he comes to check on Hee-ju and calls out her name. Hee-ju notices him but remains silent. Eventually, Lee-en leaves. The next morning, we see Hee-ju trying to sneak out stealthily so that Lee-en wouldn't spot her. However, Lee-en happens to be right nearby. He asks her, "Where are you going?" Startled to see him, Hee-ju nearly loses her balance and falls, but Lee-en catches her in his arms. Hee-ju gazes at his lips, staring intently. She eventually pulls away and says, "I'm heading to work. After all, I am the CEO." She then hurries away. Watching her go, Lee-en smiles. Hee-ju arrives at a church, where she finds a priest standing nearby and speaks with him. Recalling the kiss once again, she tells him, "I feel as though something has taken possession of me." However, the priest is unable to offer her any assistance. She then steps back outside, only to find Young-woo standing right in front of her. He spots her and asks, "What are you doing here? I thought you weren't religious, but this doesn't necessarily prove anything." Jong-woo says, "I'll be right there. Wait for me." Just then, Lee-en calls Hee-ju and asks, "Are you free? We need to go to the palace to finalize the wedding schedule." At that moment, Jong-woo approaches Hee-ju and calls out her name. Lee-en realizes that the two of them are together. Hee-ju tells him, "I'll talk to you later." Lee-en feels a bit upset, knowing that they were in each other's company. Now, Hee-ju is in the car with Jong-woo. Hee-ju says, "I told you I could just take a cab." Jong-woo replies, "It's no trouble at all." Hee-ju notices him smiling. She asks, "Do you enjoy driving, too?" Lee-en certainly does. He smiles whenever he gets behind the wheel. He says that when he drives, he feels as though he's flying. He really is still just a child. Hee-ju arrives at the company building. She is about to head inside, but Jong-woo stops her to offer a word of advice. "Don't get too emotionally attached to any of this, whether it's the money, the public image, or even your own heart." Hee-ju replies, "Don't worry. I'm not an idiot." She then heads inside. Once inside the company, Hee-ju says to herself, "Does he really not know who I am? Do I not understand the difference between my professional life and my private life?" Later, she discusses work matters with Hae-jin, telling her, "I'm going to go personally inspect all the ongoing projects." Meanwhile, a court lady speaks with Lan, asking him to set a date for Lee-en's wedding. Lan selects a specific date. Just then, Lee-en walks in. Lan informs him, "I've chosen this date." Lee-en asks for the reason behind his choice, and Lan explains it to him. Lee-en looks at the date and says, "I actually like this one." Lan asks, "Tell me your reason." Lee-en replies, "We need time to prepare for the wedding." Lan nods and says, "Very well, then, this shall be the final date." Meanwhile, we see Hee-ju arriving at her store accompanied by Ha-young. She speaks with the employees and inspects the jewelry. A young woman helps her try on a necklace. Hee-ju tells the staff, "Even though my wedding is approaching, I will continue to come here regularly to oversee things." They assure her, "We will do our absolute best." Earlier, Hee-ju had asked Ha-young to summon her brother and sister-in-law to the store. Now, Tae-soo and Da-young have arrived. Da-young is the first to strike up a conversation with Hee-ju. Tae-soo then speaks up, saying, "Look at this necklace, I think it would be perfect for you." Hee-ju then turns to her brother and declares, "Castle Group will be yours." Stunned by this revelation, he asks in disbelief, "Are you serious?" Hee-ju nods in confirmation but adds sternly, "Just don't fail me. If you do, I will personally end you." She then takes her leave. Later, while riding in the car with Ha-young, Hee-ju is asked, "Are you really planning to hand over Castle Group to your brother?" She answers affirmatively, explaining, I have to. After all, he is the rightful heir to Castle Group. In the next scene, we see Hae-young taking Hee-ju to another location, informing her, Lee-en is already waiting inside, you are here to select your wedding outfit. Hee-ju asks, who confirmed this appointment? Hae-young replies, you did. Don't you remember? Hee-ju then enters the room and spots Lee-en, who is currently examining the various outfits. She finds herself gazing at him, though she quickly averts her eyes the moment Lee-en looks back in her direction. Lee-en invites Hee-ju to step forward so she can try on the outfit. He continues to gaze intently at Hee-ju, causing her to grow visibly nervous. She begins fanning herself in an attempt to cool down and compose herself. Jin-sik approaches her and says, you are sick, but she denies it. Jin-sik remarks, but you look hot. She offers no reply. Later, Hee-ju is informed that a family dinner is to take place very soon. We have already spoken to your father about this, she is told. The wedding gift has also been presented. Hee-ju, however, remains completely unaware of any of these developments. Choi, too, recalls the scene where he had gone to Hee-ju's father, bearing both the letter and the accompanying gift, and handed them over. However, Hangik is displeased. He tells Choi, you can't rush things like this. I've had to postpone 2 of my meetings because of all this. We then see Jin-sik, who addresses the couple. She informs them, both of you are to undergo a health checkup. A physician will be arriving here shortly. She specifically tells Hee-ju, your fertility will be tested, as having an heir is of utmost importance in our family. In the next scene, the physician arrives and examines both of them. Hee-ju appears visibly nervous. The physician suspects she might be unwell, but Hee-ju insists, I'm fine. However, Lee-en senses the true reason behind her unease. Later, he tells the physician, I would like to speak with Hee-ju privately. Now alone with her, Lee-en asks, tell me, what happened? You look troubled. Why are you behaving so strangely? But Hee-ju retorts, what do you mean, what am I doing? You're the one behaving strangely. One moment you're touching my hair, and the next you're staring at me with that intense gaze. Lee-en replies, my eyes have always been like this. Is this about yesterday, because of what happened between us? Hee-ju responds, it wasn't a bad thing. Besides, we aren't children. It just happened in the heat of the moment, we got caught up in that instant. If it had been a stranger, I would have done the exact same thing. But Lee-en counters, I wouldn't have. I did it only because it was you. She simply continues to gaze at him. Iron is told that Lee-en was extremely nervous while he was getting dressed in his outfit. Iron replies, all right, I want to see him. In the next scene, she is with Lee-en, the two have met up to hang out. Iron asks him, I heard you were nervous. Is something bothering you? Did you and Hee-ju have an argument? Lee-en replies, no, though I suspect that's exactly what you're hoping for. Iron insists, I really am worried. She adds, you two come from different worlds. It's only natural for things like this to happen. Lee-en counters, my brother and you also came from different worlds. Were you happy? Iron recalls a memory. They were about to attend an event, and she had called Lee-en's brother, but he never showed up. Just then, Lee-en approached Iron and asked, did my brother run off again? Don't worry, I'll go to the event with you. Iron had protested, you can't do that. Your father will scold you if you do. Lee-en had shrugged it off, saying, it's fine. My father scolds me every day anyway. Back in the present, Iron remarks to him, this palace is a place where no one ever finds happiness. Meanwhile, Hee-ju is in her room. She recalls Lee-en's words, I did all of that only because you were there. She considers calling him but decides against it. Lee-en enters his own room and gazes at the marriage contract he had signed with Hee-ju, a document containing a clause stipulating that they must divorce before their 3rd anniversary. We then see Sang-won in his room, recalling the tragic scene of Lee-en's brother perishing in a fire. Afterward, he had gone to find Iron, but she was terrified, cowering in a corner and weeping. Sang-won had approached her and said, you must be strong. The press will portray this entire affair as a tragedy. You must do all of this for the sake of the crown prince. Then, Iron reveals, what did I do? My husband was drafting an official decree, one that would have deposed the crown prince and handed the throne over to Lee-en. But my husband will surely understand that everything I did was done solely for the crown prince. Sangwon asks, what exactly did you do? Iron replies, I set the place on fire. Meanwhile, we see Lien in his room, he is examining a contract. He then opens his safe, enters the password, and places the contract inside. However, the safe also contains that very decree, the one Lien's brother had written, which Iron had attempted to burn. Although it was slightly singed, it appears Lien had managed to salvage it. We then see Taezu and Diang, who have dressed up for the occasion, as they are scheduled to have dinner with Lien that evening. Diang looks at Taezu and asks, what is this? Your hair is still wet. Taezu replies, I'm copying Lien, his hair is usually wet, too. Diang, however, simply tells him, you're even more handsome than he is. Hangik also gets ready, though he appears far from pleased regarding his daughter. Taezu says to him, she is your daughter. Why do you hate her? Even if you hate her, fine, let that be, but why do you hate your son-in-law? You really shouldn't be acting this way. Hangik retorts, stop spouting nonsense. In the next scene, we see Heju and Lien together in a car, on their way to the dinner. Choi In briefs Heju on what she will need to do once they arrive, adding, we might have to stay there for up to 4 hours. Hearing this, Heju looks completely shocked. In the following scene, the two families meet and formally introduce themselves to one another. Everyone then moves inside to begin their meal, during which Taezu turns to Lien and asks, so, how did the two of you first meet? Hangik begins speaking about his daughter, telling Lien to always protect her. Lien assures him not to worry about that. Hangik replies, of course I'm going to worry, the palace is nothing but a constant source of trouble. It is a place of pure tragedy. Heju then confronts her father, saying, I am not a child. If you truly cared about me, you would have come to check on me after my accident to see if I was okay, but you didn't. When your son got married, you gave shares of the company to Diang's family, along with an entire building. What are you going to give me? I am your only daughter. Heju refuses to eat any further and retreats to her room. Lien follows her inside. Heju asks to be left alone for a while, but Lien walks over and sits down beside her. Lien remarks, I think your father actually likes me. Heju disagrees, saying, that's not it at all. I think he just wants to use you. Lien reassures her, don't worry, as long as I'm by your side, everything will be fine. Heju gazes at him and asks, do you have feelings for me? Lien asks, why are you asking that so suddenly? Heju explains, things just happened between us back then, but I get the feeling that it was your first time. Your eyes have been sparkling lately. Lien eventually confesses, saying, yes, I do like you. I've waited a long time for this moment, but now I can no longer hold back. You're probably thinking that I won't grant you a divorce. Heju asks, you won't. Lien laughs and says, don't worry. I don't intend to keep you by my side forever, either. But I want you to take everything from me, whether it's my money, my reputation, or even my heart. Heju retorts, I have more money than you do, and I always will. The two of them then share a laugh. In the next scene, they are seen together in a car. They were arriving back at their home. Lien watched her, wanting to take her hand. But just then, Jong-yu called Heju. He asked how dinner had gone, and she replied that it had been wonderful. Afterward, Lien began talking to her. Lien remarked, I think my father-in-law actually likes me. However, seeing the two of them talking together, he couldn't help but feel a pang of jealousy. He escorted Heju to the private residence and told her, we'll meet again on our wedding day. He looked at her and added, I feel sad to be leaving, too. She smiled back at him. Lien then took his leave. Heju went inside, where all the staff members were waiting for her. They asked, how was your dinner? What kind of reception did you get? We were so anxious about it that we didn't even eat. Heju asked, really? Then she suggested, there's a new restaurant nearby. Let's go there. In the next scene, they all arrived at the restaurant, ate, and enjoyed themselves. Watching everyone having such a good time, Arum felt a bit lonely. Ha-young noticed this and served her some food. In the next scene, we see Lien approaching Jong-yu. The secretary informed Jong-yu that Lien had arrived, but Jong-yu replied, that wasn't on our schedule. Lien walked in and spoke to Jong-yu. Jong-yu asked, what have you come to talk about? Lien replied, I like Heju. Jong-yu retorted, so what? Does knowing that change anything? Does Ju even know? Lian said, don't bring her into this. I'm only speaking for myself. I just want you to know that I like her, and you need to mind your manners. Lian then left the building. Sitting in his car, he sent a text message to Ju, telling her, make sure you eat on time. Ju is in a meeting when she sees the message and smiles. The next scene reveals that the wedding day has arrived. Lian was being dressed for the occasion. He asks where Ju is, but Jin Suk replies that she will soon be his wife. He shouldn't call her Ju anymore. Later, blushing shyly, he asks, where is my wife? Meanwhile, Youngmoon and the others were also getting Ju ready. Eventually, Ju is ready and steps out. Everyone remarks on how beautiful she looks. In the following scene, Ju and Lian finally come face to face. The wedding rituals were being performed, and they were offered a drink. Ju takes a sip, but she suddenly begins to cough. Lian asks, are you alright? Ju assures him, I'm okay. Han-guk approaches Ju to speak with her, advising, always hold your head high, otherwise, you will appear weak. Jong-yu arrives at the palace. He encounters Ah-room and asks her, aren't you ready yet? Ah-room responds, are you alright? Jong-yu retorts, what could possibly happen to me? Ah-room replies, very well, I, too, would like to see just how long you can maintain your self-control. She then walks away. Meanwhile, we see Ju and Lian as their wedding ceremony concludes. The couple was now making their way to the palace together. Crowds of people lined the streets, waving and greeting them. People everywhere were watching the event on television. Jong-yu watches the broadcast. Ah-room, standing beside him, observes that he is seething with rage. Ah-room says, that is exactly why I told you to use your power to stop this wedding, but you wouldn't listen to me. Now, Ju and Lian arrive at the palace to receive guests. Everyone was offering them their congratulations. But then, quite unexpectedly, something happens to Ju. She begins to cough once again, and moments later, she suddenly collapses, losing consciousness. Lian takes Ju into his arms and asks, are you okay? However, she does not regain consciousness. The episode ends there. We will meet again in episode 8. Until then, goodbye.